Thank you, Aaron. It's been a great day here at ETS. We've had some fantastic discussions on building bridges for the utility future, the clean energy transition, and now I am so excited for our next fireside chat, our wonderful conversation evolving into the utility of the future, using infrastructure, data, and analytics to serve customers better. And as businesses attempt to thrive in uncertain times, that's going to happen by knowing our customers more and more. Today, currently, utilities treat customers based on just a few segments, and that doesn't fully capture what we need to know to understand how to connect operations to customer experience and to engagement. We have an immense opportunity with energy data to integrate into the customer's life so much more. And to have this conversation about data and the importance of customer engagement and infrastructure, I am so pleased to be joined by Don Reeves, Senior Vice President at itron for Outcomes, and Abhay Gupta, CEO and founder of Bidgely. Don, Abhay, how are you today?
Doing well, Chris. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Chris.
Well, this is going to be a really, I think, a great conversation. And I'm going to turn it over to Don right now to just talk a little bit about the broader picture of infrastructure in the utility industry. So Don, take it away.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris. And again, really appreciate having the opportunity here to talk with you and the audience and with Abhay about how our industry is evolving. I guess I first wanted to just share a few thoughts, give a little background on itron, and then talk about what we're doing to drive change in this area. So our purpose at itron is to create a more resourceful world. And we do that by providing hardware in the form of meters and networks and other types of sensors, and software that allows us to go pull data through those networks and from those devices. And then ultimately by enabling analytics to make sense of all that data and to deliver actionable insights to our customers. And we do this in a manner where itron provides some of those analytics, some of those insights, but for many of them, we then partner with other companies within the industry who have specific expertise and have specific techniques in how they can make use of that data. And obviously you'll be hearing about that from Abhay here in a little bit and what they do at Bidgely. But certainly something that we've learned over the years, and I've been in the industry now for over a decade and a half, is it's one thing to provide information and insights to the utility. It's another to really empower the end consumer. And that certainly is one of the key trends that we're seeing. So again, put this in context, itron's got about 8,000 customers around the world. We've delivered over 200 million communicating endpoints. So I think we have a pretty good understanding of what it's like to get devices out there and to pull data from them. My business unit is responsible for managing about 70 million devices today for our customers around the world. We pull about 500 million records every day from those devices. And so there's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of insight that can be gleaned today. As we look forward to where the industry is heading, I think we're going to have access to an even greater amount of data. In fact, probably a couple of orders of magnitude of additional data beyond what we have available today. And I think that's pretty exciting. Now, as we look at the challenges then facing our industry and the end consumers, obviously renewables have really changed the game, right? The grid has moved from largely a one-way entity into a dynamic, two-way living and breathing organism. And consumers are playing a part of that, right? They've got, solar on their rooftop. They're starting to deploy batteries. The move to electric vehicles is underway, and suddenly you've got both a device that can take a pretty high demand on the grid, but also potentially offer the ability to contribute energy back into the grid, right? And we've never really had that sort of situation available before in mass, as I think we're going to be facing here in the years to come. There's, in addition, there's the rapid urbanization, and obviously this pandemic is going to have an impact, and will perhaps cause some different patterns to emerge. But I think overall, the movement towards cities is clearly a trend that we're all experiencing, and that will continue. And as you start to overlay that with some of the items I just mentioned, clearly the industry is going to be facing a number of challenges. But then finally, we go to the end consumer. And really, I think the expectations of the consumer are what's perhaps going to drive our industry forward most rapidly. Because let's face it, we're all demanding. We're expecting real-time gratification. We're expecting insight to be made available to us in all facets of our lives. And honestly, getting a utility bill once a month or maybe every other month for a water customer, that just isn't going to cut it, right? I want to know instantaneously if there's a leak happening in my home that can actually be causing damage to my home, or be wasting water out as I irrigate my yard. I want to understand if my bill is going to be significantly larger for electricity than it was last month. And then I want options to understand what can be done about that. If I buy a brand new, hybrid vehicle or EV, I want to understand what is going to be the most cost-effective way to charge that vehicle. And as those options evolve over time, I want to be made aware of those options. And if I go put a battery, on the side of my house, I want to know, well, how do I get the most value out of that battery? And how can I contribute most to my community? I live here in Northern California. We've unfortunately suffered some rotating outages as the grid has been under duress, as temperatures have been really high here the last few weeks. And then we're also suffering from the potential of rotating power outages for safety, as we're trying to turn off energized lines that are potentially at risk to sparking fires in inclement weather. And obviously, as a consumer, that's not what I want to see. I expect the lights to turn on when I flip that switch. And as a member of our industry, I hate to see that as our answer, right? I don't want to go turn the power off to the end consumer. I want to find new and creative solutions for enabling them to receive the great level of service they already receive today. So I think really that the demands of the end consumer are going to be absolutely critical, and the utilities that are most successful in meeting those demands and expectations and providing additional insights and delivering additional value-added services, they're going to be the ones really that are going to emerge from the situation which we're in right now as the most successful, the most highly regarded, and ultimately the most profitable entities within their industry. And so now, how are we helping to attack this? First off, as mentioned earlier, we provide a broad set of networking options. And we're talking about connecting power devices, battery powered devices over a variety of networks. Sometimes it's cellular, sometimes it's mesh, sometimes it's a star topology. So we're not zealots about the exact technology, other than it's got to be something that works and is cost effective. And we really focus on bringing together a heterogeneous platform that can address a variety of needs. Next, we're really excited to see the industry as a whole embracing the cloud. We think that opens up a lot of new opportunities. And you think about how we've evolved just in the last decade, right? Systems used to be thought of as having to be on-premise and kind of under lock and key. And now today, and there's still some critical systems that have to be maintained in that way, but by and large, the industry is moving to accept the cloud, having their resources distributed, obviously very securely managed and maintained, and access tightly controlled, but realizing that the cloud really does offer up a variety of options. And as we think about evolving towards deploying more analytics, I think the cloud becomes an even more critical element. And then finally, as we move towards wanting to provide a greater insight, that's going to be dependent in part upon having greater access to more granular information. And so edge intelligence, I think, is going to become a critical element of the overall solution. And here at Itron, we're really excited about delivering that capability. We call it distributed intelligence. It's something that we're shipping today. And while we recognize that there's going to be a broad set of devices out there, some are not going to be capable of intelligence at the edge, others will be, and that we need to make sure we're delivering value no matter what the types of sensors are that are deployed. We do think that the move towards putting intelligence within those networks out at the edge, not forcing all that data to be collected and stored in a massive data warehouse, but instead allow the processing of that data to take place in a ubiquitous, cost-effective manner. We think that's going to be a key technologic advantage for our customers. And we look forward to both rolling that out and then partnering with software developers such as Bidgely and others to take advantage of that capability and unleash a whole new generation of advanced analytics. So I'm really excited about where things are heading, and look forward to talking with you more in depth about the industry and getting into some of the interesting challenges we face.
Well,
Over to
Don,
you, Chris.
well, thank you, Don. Really a very in-depth overview of where things have progressed in the last 5 to 10 years, and additionally how critical network communications are to underpin all of the advances that utilities want to make, and that naturally leads into Abe's experience with on the customer experience side, because as we're talking about a more customer-centric grid, a more customer-centric utility, it's data that's going to really power that. And so, Abe, I want to turn it over to you to explore that conversation.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for inviting us to the ETS platform, for sharing our views. Just a little introduction about Bidgely and myself. I started Bidgely. I'm the CEO at Bidgely, and we started the company about 2012, so almost 8 years back. And the mission of the company has always been extracting information out of the data in the energy space, and we serve utilities around the world, around the globe, electric, gas, and water utilities. Data analytics is the foundation of the company, and we'll give you a very quick flavor of how we do that and what special techniques we apply. So we'll use the next 5 or 7 minutes to tickle your brain on new technology that you may have heard about or you may not have heard about, but will certainly be seeing this in production, if not heard about it, very likely at your own utilities. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. So we're going to talk about the data-driven evolution of the utilities. And as I mentioned, Bidgely's foundation is all about data and analytics. So as of today or till now, most of the common sources of data are billing data and demographic data and some interaction data on the websites. But with the adoption of the smart meters, and as Don mentioned, they have 70 million data points or sensors in form of meters, etc., that they're collecting data from. We know AMI smart meter data produces somewhere between 60 and 30, 15 minute or 5 minute in the latest meters sampling rates. The value harnessed from these meters and the data from these meters is really just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more information that's hidden in this data. And we are just one of the companies that is trying to do that. There's a lot more efforts happening in the industry, and this is long ways to go. But the potential of this data is to change all customer interactions and business decisions that utilities are doing today. Okay, so we are going to expose the audience here to one specific technology, although we work on several different, but this is the one which is highly differentiated. So I want to make sure that we've given the introduction to this technology. It's called load disaggregation. And what it does is it takes the data from meters and analyzes the data to identify what's happening with the appliances and behavior in the household. So what you see on your screen is one house 365 days on the vertical axis and 24 hours of data. And you can see that just like if facial recognition, a house has a recognition by data, and every house looks different, but there are signatures of appliances that are available or to be extracted from that data. So while we are not connecting any sensor to the air conditioner or pool pump or heater, the usage pattern or signatures, as it is defined, of these appliances are visible on this picture, which is nothing but the meter data that's collected by you and probably sitting in your databases for millions of homes. And these signatures, for example, you can see a pool pump turning on and off at the same time every day. It's a motor based on a timer, or people using heating usage in the winter when the color changes here for the usage pattern. When they go on vacation, how many refrigerators do they have? What kind of lighting they are using? All of this information can be extracted from data. And the beauty of this is with the right technology, you don't need any hardware. You don't need any sensor in the house. You don't need customers to fill out surveys, and this technology is live in over 20 million homes just by Bijli, and probably even more homes by overall in the industry today. So the adoption is happening, and the powerful part of the technology is it's massively scalable. So the question now is, once you know what's happening in the home, what can you do about it, right? The first thing we could do is we could completely change the billing. Our bills today look something which is about distribution charges and transmission charges and different kinds of details. Most customers can't comprehend what they're looking at. They just look at the last number below the line and okay, this is what I'm paying. You can change the paradigm by making them smart bills. And your smart bills now, just like your credit card statements, your bank statements, your phone bills, were itemized by the usage, types of usage. Your smart bills in the energy space can be itemized by the type of appliance that's using it. So consumers can actually do something about it and say, hey, I'm spending this much money on heating, and I think this is, and of course, we tell them whether this is based on benchmark, high or low, and they can do something about it, take an action. And as a result, we are seeing 90% of the customers loving it. And there's thumbs up ratings of that high on a repeat basis and very high repeat open email rates, etc. So there's obvious benefits of just the first action of giving people the itemized energy bills. The second very obvious way to do it is targeting, right? I mean, our industry in the energy space, we are lagging behind the rest of the industries. So instead of broadcast blast marketing through billboards and same email or same bill insert going to everyone, you can target like the rest of the world does. Hey, give me top 200,000 customers who are using their heating in the peak hours from Monday to Friday between 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. That's what you can run, and you can get that from the technology, right? So your targeting is far more superior, and you can save literally tens of millions of dollars, if nothing less, or if not more, by using the right targeting for various different programs. Your grid planning can be completely different. Instead of using aggregate studies and statistics, you now have the power to know exactly what's happening in every single home and which appliance is using energy. So I can fine tune my grid based on the consumption and generation, and who's charging EV and who's using AC in the peak hours, etc. So you have all that power in your hands with the technology. And lastly, you can unlock new revenue models. And of course, there is regulatory forces that define how to generate revenue. But the fact that everyone in the world is looking at alternate sources of revenue and increasing the revenue per customer, your ability to know which customer is the right one to sell a variable speed pool pump or upgrade their AC, etc., it completely changes an option for you guys to bring in a different set of entity, the external vendors. And these vendors are spending billions of dollars on platforms like Google and Facebook simply because they get a targeted audience. You have the audience, and now you have the ability to target them. So it's an opportunity for the industry to be at the same level as the other industries and harness the power of data, and extract information, serve the customers better, monetize it better, and bring benefits to customers, right? So just a little bit of peek into the adoption of the industry, adoption of the technology. the adoption is happening fast. As I mentioned, 20 million homes have this technology live worldwide right now. And you can see a number of different utilities who have adopted the technology for various different solutions between home energy reports and analytics workbench and marketplace and small and medium business, etc. So with that, Chris, I'm going to hand over back to you with just one line message. If you want to view this technology live or experience in your hands, feel free to visit demo.bijli.com.
Well,
Back to you.
thanks, Abe. Really, thanks to both you and Don for your great overview of the connection between the operations from generation, transmission, distribution to behind the meter. And that really is the future of where the utility industry needs to be headed when it comes to data and analytics. As we wrap up, this has been a fascinating discussion. I really thank you both. You know, here we are, 2020. Let's project out over the next decade. What does a digitally integrated and customer-centric utility look like a decade from now in 2030? Abe, do you want to take the first crack at that?
Yeah. So I'm going to, of course, use my own vision of what it might look like. Who knows, you know, the time will tell. But I think a successful digitally transformed utility that's thriving in a decade will look like many other businesses which are not regulated. They are selling multiple services to the customer. They're not just selling energy through the grid. They're possibly, and by the way, you can actually take a sneak peek in the deregulated markets and see what's happening in those deregulated markets, because deregulated markets represent exactly what Don is pointing to. No regulatory pressure. That's the other extreme. You might still have some regulatory mandates, but you're selling more than one services. You're selling combined and bundled services. Maybe you're selling broadband, maybe you're selling other stuff, or you're selling appliance services, or you're leasing appliances. We know of a utility in Europe that is leasing everything, including each LED bulb into the house, and they have on-bill financing in the sense that you're not paying the price for these things upfront, you're renting them or leasing them, and every month you pay like $100 extra, but everything from light bulb to washing machine to refrigerator and everything in your house is leased, and you don't have to worry about maintenance or things breaking down. A little further beyond, it's also possible that the energy transaction is very different, and there may be people who are generating more electricity are selling right on the grid to other people. So what's known as peer-to-peer transactions. I don't know how long it'll take to come into effect, but my take is that it will come into effect at some point in future. The question is, are utilities going to expand their position and platform to be the owning that platform, or are there other entities in the world who will basically take on that platform and utilities are left outside? But I think that will happen. So my hope is that a digitally transformed utility actually has a platform, and they are the ones facilitating all the transactions, even if they are happening from one prosumer to another prosumer.
Don, building on what Abe said, what are your thoughts? What's Itron's thoughts on where the industry's headed a decade from now?
Well, I think Abe talked a lot about the what, and I think I largely agree with what he said. I'll talk a little bit about the how. I believe we're going to have a even more decentralized grid. We're going to have storage and generation capability much more broadly deployed than we have today. But I think the grid will have been upgraded as well, and we'll have control capable at multiple points, and it'll be highly scalable, distributed control. The utility will have much greater insight than they have today, both what's happening at every facet of the asset they control and are responsible for. And I think they'll also, through improvements in what's sitting at the premise, they'll have more visibility to go offer all those services Abe just took you through, and take advantage of that raw compute capability sitting there at the edge. And then finally, I think utilities will hopefully enjoy the opportunity to select best of breed partners for providing analytics, that they're not going to be locked into a single monolithic vendor, right? They're not going to go to Itron for everything. They're going to go to Itron for what we do well They're going to go to Visually for what they do well. They're going to go to partners A, B, and C for what they can do well. And if we do our job right as a key infrastructure provider, we'll provide a really seamless way in which kind of all those best of breed solutions can be brought to bear in a very cost-effective manner. So that's the future that I see.
Well, that's a future I think that that a lot of utilities can really embrace, and so I appreciate both of you taking some time, both participating at ETS. I wish we could keep this conversation going for a lot longer, but Abe, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Don, pleasure talking as always. Really pleasure talking with both of you.
Thanks so much.
As we move on to our next session, Abe and Don have asked us to think about the artificial intelligence and data having us be flexible as utilities. And now Z Prime's going to have us be flexible in our bodies as we move and do a little bit of yoga. So I hope that you'll all stick around and enjoy my colleague Emma Garcia as she leads us through a yogic refreshing practice here at ETS. Thanks so much. I'm Chris Moyer for Z Prime.